Well, I kept saying I'm going to avoid the panels for a while, but I decided I'm going to do an episode now on the front sheet metal because Darren lives down the coast now and he's able to give me 3 days this week. So I've decided to get this front sheet metal back on. And what we're doing now is that you've seen in the last episode the hinges and all that I'd give them a light grind up and a coat of epoxy. So we're putting those on now and they look really sweet because it's nice when everything looks nice and new. And the bolts are all just in bare metal, they've all been cleaned up. And I'm using the long with the big washer on them because I don't want to overwork. In the back of here, there's a plate that's threaded and the standard bolts that normally would go in here are like a triangulated thread, and it's a self-locking thread and it tends to chop out these. So if you've got the thing on and off, the plate inside will play up. So that's why we're using those bolts. And I've just ordered some new bolts from just a bolt supplier with a flanged head that we'll use, the same as what we used on BOSSXC. So hinges have all been tidied up, epoxied. The door's this is the first mount up. So we normally put a towel on the sill like that. Just sit that on there with about 4 layers and that's about the right gap. Sit it on the towel, bolt the hinges up and work out where we're up to. And you can see there now, if you look straight on with the camera, we're a little bit tight. We're going to run around the 5mm, which is pretty much factory. And what it does show me, being as tight as it is, that I'm going to need a little bit off of here and a little bit off down the bottom. But we'll get it all adjusted up and then I'll work out whether we need to cut the door a bit to make that work. So the first job is to get it on there, which we've done. We'll put the locks and all in it as well, and the striker plate, so that we can close it up and make sure it's sitting where it needs to be, because then we're going to put the guards on it and the plenum, and I'll talk about the plenum later, but we'll start putting it all together and we'll make up an episode that'll show how we try and get this front to all fit and be square. So we need to go forward. So what I'm going to do is going to loosen the top hinge. I'm going to lift the door up and Darren can tell on the actual hinge there how much it went forward. So if you're looking for 2mm, you'll get it to go up, and of course now it won't fit here properly. So then we do the bottom, loosen it off, and I'll let the door back down again. All right, and that's now moved. So that's made our gap wider. So we'll just nip those up now and see what we've actually got. So what we're trying to do there now, if you loosen the whole hinge, both hinges off, try and move the door forward, it'll drop. So by doing it this way, you loosen the top hinge, lift it up, tighten it up, loosen the bottom hinge, drop it down, moves the door forward, but we don't lose our height. So when you're adjusting the door, because there's so many variants, you really want to adjust one thing at a time, which is what we're trying to do. Now I used to use all sorts of little bits of timber and aluminium and stuff to do the gaps. I find this is the easiest way. If I stick that in there now, we've got 4.6 and we've got 4.4. So we're very close to square, but we need to go forward just another 1/2 mil or so. So what are we going to do, 5 mil? So we'll just go forward another 1/2 millimetre, which seems ridiculous, but that's what we do. All right, that's about enough. So I've got to come up about 4mm this end to get that to go 1/2 mil. Now I just release the weight back on the bottom one. Yep. Now, you're right. You can sort of do it, you know, you can mark the pillar with a pencil and all that. I mean, we've done it enough times now that we know what we're doing. It's 5.2 and 5.02, so within 0.2 again, and that'll be a good starting point for us. And you can see now that gap looks really nice, but if you measure it, it's 5.16, and up here it's 4.9. So this will probably want a little trim out of here, and then down the bottom, it's probably a little bit out down there, but that's after we get everything squared up. So the next thing is this gap down here, and from the factory I've seen those 5 to 7 mil variants on a complete car when it's come to us. So they weren't very good from the factory, and we know this needs a starting point here of about 10 mil gap from the bottom of the gutter to the top of the door. The problem we have is we've put new gutters on it, so that's why we're going to put it all together and make sure everything fits. Right, so Darren's got the other door back on, adjusted that up, so we've got similar heights. So the gap down here, as I talked about earlier, is important, and then we work off these points and this point, both sides. And what I've done now is I've put the chrome trim on here, so the clips that hold the trim on locate the guard and this cowl panel. So this one's adjustable this way by a few mil, and we can obviously go left to right. So what we've done now is we've got the guards have still got the inner bracing out of it, so they're quite flexible, and I've done that specifically because I want to make sure when I hold this in the position where I believe it's got to be, our gap's pretty good, but our doors are a little bit flat through here compared to the actual guard, not the other side. This one's not too bad. So it's really about making sure that what you're starting with is correct before you start welding stuff up, because once it's welded, it's 3 times harder to get it to move, because I'm looking to get our lines this way, body lines all looking nice and even. The moment the bonnet's just the skin, and I've got that sitting in there because of the width, I need to make sure that we've got the guards in the right position, because that determines the position to the pillar. So everything's movable, but you need to make sure you've got enough adjustment. So that's sitting in position with a couple of screws in it. We've got our 5 mil gap here, and when I lift that up, we're about the right width here. 5 mil there, 5 mil on the other side. Looking at the length of the bonnet, when we put a nose cone on, our length is within 1 mil, and the same in the width over here. So because this is not attached and it has no inner, I've got a bit of flexibility there, but we're looking for 5 mil gap, 5 mil gap, and everything even across the front. When we get over this side, this particular door, the back of it's not as good as the other side. So we've got like 7.5 mil there and 5 here. And we've set it up at 5 there, but we've run out of room at this point. So we're going to move it back so that we've got our 5 mil at the top, and trim the back off the door to move it back to get this gap. So the moment that's at about 2.5, if we go back 2.5, we've got our 5. This gap is quite consistent. If I come over here and you go around behind me, Louise, when I line this bottom edge up where it's meant to be, that's not too bad. So we normally got to trim a bit out of here to get our nice gap there. And once we move the door back, we'll be looking pretty good. The other thing I often talk about is this point. So when that clip goes onto that moulding, remembering there's a clip under here that holds this and this together, is to get this nice and flat. And then I'm also looking at this line here, it's about 10 mil wide, to try and get both sides the same. So now we're at this point, we'll go ahead and tack the bracing in the back, one in the front. We can then bolt it on better move that door back and keep working our way forward. And it's a little bit extra time on and off, but it's about making sure that you don't make a mistake early. So for instance, if I put that door on, welded and gapped the back of that before I did all the front, it wouldn't be right, because we need the door to go back to get enough gap here, because I don't want to be cutting. It's very difficult to cut the back of the guard or the front of this door. There's just not enough room. So really happy with where we're at the moment. We've had a lot worse to fix. So now that we've done that, we'll get some inners back in and yeah, keep working away at trying to get it done. Righto, so we're just putting the guards back together. So I take all these inners out for a couple of reasons. One is obviously to get rid of any rust. Unfortunately on this one we didn't have to do any metal repairs, but there's a lot of rust, especially in behind these areas. But it also enables me to get access to be able to panel beat the whole panel properly. So what we've got set up now is we've put that back together exactly on the spot weld. So it'll go back to where it was previously. And then Darren's just welding those up now with a MIG. And the idea is to get good penetration, one at a time, and then air cool between, so you're not pulling too much on the panel. The black here is just a CF black epoxy PPG, and then the rest of it's in DP616. So it all handles that heat pretty well. So I'll just get him to do a couple of welds to show you how we do that. So we're at about half speed on the MIG. It's an old MIG, so it's on 3 out of 6. So you need enough heat that it penetrates well. But not too much where it blows the back out of it. If you've got one that's a bit dodgy, you can put a bit of copper strap behind there as well, but because these were drilled out properly, we've got plenty of metal on the back to be able to weld them up. No pressure, mate. No. Got the guard sitting on there now, and what I'm trying to do is to make sure everything fits and works. So this is the little bracket. Now this is the original one that we've cleaned up. I noticed that you can buy these repo, which I didn't know. It's got a bolt like that, a screw that goes up into the torque box, and then this clip is for this back bolt. Somewhere. This one, the front bolt, sorry. So when that goes up on there, there's a hole in the bottom of the torque box for that to fit in. What we've found, and it definitely applies on this side, and I'll just check the other side, quite often that hole is not lined up when they've done the that might be a bit hard with the camera, but this hole here, so that's the screw hole there, so that goes in that hole there, right, and that fits in that hole. But when you're trying to adjust it in and out, the clip hasn't got enough room to move. So we normally drill that hole out a bit bigger and make it a slot so that we can adjust the guard in and out. So that's the hole in question. And then the other one's a normal clip in here, which has movement to get front and back in and out. So we'll drill those out. So I've just put it back up on the hoist to do it. So that screw there will go back into there. Sometimes these are missing altogether. You know, cars are getting old now, but this one was fortunate. Well, that was all together. So we'll sort that out. And then he's got all these ground up now. And then what I've been doing while he's been doing that, so I've been cleaning these up. So these are the originals off it, and you can manipulate these a bit. They're cast aluminium. It's a bit like when I was doing the tail lights. So I'll show you a bit more on this later probably, but I've been filing, you know, a little bit of heat gun and pushing them around. But what I need to do is check that it's going to fit to the guard properly. So you can see there's a bit of a dent there, and it's got one here as well. So you can put a bit of filler in them, but ideally, you know, we're trying to make everything nice without the filler. So that goes on there, and you can see here now where this is not 100%. So I'm going to push this around a bit to get this to be a nice flat finish. So there's a bit of a dent there even where I can feel that comes down and pushes out. So we've put these back to original, and now we'll get this to match that. Righto, we've made some really good progress. So we've got all the front on, and unfortunately I haven't finished the bonnet. So we're just sitting the bonnet on as a skin, which I think I said yesterday. But it's early morning, we got a fresh look at it, and we've put the nose cones on the front of the guard. And we've done that so we get our length right. And we've got the doors on right, and the guards are looking good down here. I've got a little bit of pushing and pulling to do, but not too much. But we're ended up too wide in the front. So the doors look good, but I've got 7 mil each side here, and I want sort of 5. And then you can see here where we're starting to show some of the holes and stuff from here, and the other side's worse. And I look at it and go, that's, you know, doesn't look right. So if you look over there, you can see how the holes from the clips are starting to show. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and move the front of the doors in. And when we've started to do that, so this point here, and I've said before, normally about 8 mil at that point. So we've loosened off the bolts on the door, right? And that's all the way in, and we want another 2 mil. So I reckon what we're going to do is file out the holes on the hinge, just to let that go in a little bit more. But what you've got to be careful of is if you start doing that, if you look down the bottom here, you'll see that when I move this in and out, because the hinge is up here, it moves the bottom as well, and the same at the back. When I move this, it's going to move that in and out. So we just got to be careful how much we move things, but at the moment we're going to take the guard back off, take this hinge off, open the holes up a bit, push it in at 2 mil I'm looking for. That'll give us some adjustment. That'll mean this is in, move the guard over, close this gap up, because this and the bonnet are the same width. Now on a lot of cars we've done they're not the same width, but for some reason on this one they are, which is a bonus, because normally we cut this to make it match the bonnet, but we haven't had to do that on this particular car. So we'll get a look at that, and then we'll turn the camera back on and show you what we ended up with. Righto, so I've opened the holes up, and I've now got a lot more movement, and that'll go nearly all the way back in. But when we first did it, it hardly moved at all. And the reason is, in the back here, the hinge actually was hitting on the return. So what I've done is I've just got a blunt chisel and put a bit of a dent in the back here so that hinge can go all the way in. And I always talk about one modification leads to 2 that leads to 3, and that's a good example where we've made the hinge, the hole in the hinge bigger, but then you've got to make the back of the door adapt so that that hinge can move in and out. So now we can get our adjustment. And the reason I get concerned about it is if I got just enough adjustment and then I put a layer of paint on the hinge and on the door, then I lose about 1 mil, maybe 1.5 mil. So you can make everything fit, but you need that extra bit of adjustment, because once you paint things, everything grows, and sometimes it moves it out and sometimes it moves it in. So you just got to make sure you've got plenty of adjustment when you go to put it together for after paint. While we've got these guards off, decided just to mix up some epoxy and brush on over where Darren's welded them up. So that just stops everything rusting. So that's the Deltron DP616. We've done that, and then I noticed when these were on the car before, this edge here, how it's all wobbly. If you try and hammer that up, it'll just stretch it, and then it'll want to go like this. So we've done this quite a few times before. Because it's got the little ribs in it, you can only do this very outside edge, but we're just going to put it in the shrinker stretcher and pull that edge a bit tighter. So when I'm sitting it on the car looking at it, because of my eye and my brain, I don't like looking at things that aren't right. So we'll just do that quickly now, and we'll film that just to show you what we normally do. So it's a two-man job. It might be a three-man, someone to put the top bit's not bad actually. It doesn't take much, just a little bit of pressure, that'll do. I'll just take that off and have a look. So you can see there now, it's straightened that up, but it does put little marks in it. So I'll just sand them up and get rid of them when I'm doing body work. But just to get it to look nice on the car, just have a look at that one. Does that need want a bit more in further? That's not too bad. So we'll just keep going along that front edge. Okay, it's pretty good. So it actually steps up here to go up over the radiator support. So we'll just have a look at that when we get it on, but that looks heaps better. So the reason is I want this to sit down when it bolts on, for this not to be puckering up everywhere. That's a lot better. Righto, so we're getting a whole lot closer now. One thing I want to just do and show you here is, you can see here, when we look straight along, that the curvature on this and the curvature on the guard are different. So I've just got this gadget that we can put on here and get our actual curvature right on the edge. And just push that down, make sure it's correct, and then when we put it on here we can see that this one's, if you can see it, is different. So we need to flatten it out through the middle. So we're going to just take it off. It's only got a couple of screws in it. Put it in the shrinker stretcher, and we'll stretch it this time rather than shrinking it, and just take some of that out. And I do this now because I just like to leave things together and walk around the car for the next couple of weeks looking at the gaps and the lines to make sure I'm happy with it before I sort of progress. It's just the way I do things. So on this end, we're going to have to cut this, so I won't be worrying about it. So I'm just doing this now pretty much for the video to show you. So this is fixed here. These clips bolt onto there, and then the panel sits on top of the clip. So none of that moves on the outside edge, and this is all fixed. So we'll now just put an extra bit in that curve. So on the other side, You've got to be fairly delicate with it. So to get something to move, I've got to get it going in the jaws first. There we go. If you go all the way in like that, it's not going to solve the problem, because you need to be out on the edge of it. Now if I push this down now on the jaws, so this is going to stretch it. If I stretch it, it's actually going to get worse, so I'm on the wrong side. I want to shrink it. So sometimes you just got to think about it a bit. So we go over this side. And I'm just going to do a very small amount across a wide area, because it won't take much at all. If I get my gauge, I don't know whether that gauge is going to show me enough. I've got here a bit still, so I'm just going to stick it on the car. It's almost a little bit flat just there, so it's good here, it's really good there, and then it's flat there, so I need that to curve a bit more. So to get it to curve a bit more, I think I need to stretch it. We'll find out in a minute. So between there and there, if I want that to go that way, I've got to stretch the outside. So between there and there. These are one of the best machines you can own, shrinker stretcher, if you're doing rust repair work especially. You can make a piece of angle and then bend that angle to go around a curve, like on a boot jam or something like that. And as you can see here, you can very quickly change the shape of things without having to have to belt the hell out of it. That's pretty darn good now. You can see here, this is just sitting up a little bit, but there's also a crease at the back, and I'm thinking that that's had a hit on the side at some time in its life, and that's a bit proud. So I'm gonna probably put that on a bench somewhere and give that a tap down as well. Might have even been at Ford in the production of it. Now, it's made a difference. It's a lot better. And now when it goes over, it's 5mm, it's got a 5mm gap. We line up our factory holes here, and now everything's sort of in its place, and that now looks really good. I mentioned earlier in the program about the bolts. Now, I bought this some time ago when we had more than sort of one car in the workshop, and these sets of drawers, you know, they're available at all different places. I think I paid about $400 for that set of one each set. And what I've done is I've put all of these containers, because I used to have everything in little carry containers that had all these plastic inserts in them. And I'm just showing you now because I've spent a fair bit of time on the other weekend sorting a lot of stuff out. So these are all of my panel bolts for a Falcon. And some are from this car, and there's others that were left over from others. But what I wanted to show you today was the fact that those bolts that hold the hinges on, that's, you know, what they look like when they come out of the car. And then we normally clean them up, and I've shown that on previous programs about getting it to look like that, and then you send it off and get it plated. And Ford used a lot of gold plate, but they also used silver. So that then looks like a original replacement. And what I've been doing is buying these, so the head and all looks very similar, and the same length and the same thread, but they're not the self-locking thread. So we use those in the door, and then where the hinge goes onto the body, especially on the lower one, I think, no, the top one, which is a lot thinner, the bolt looks like that one. And then when you clean it up, it looks like that. And there's a couple of different lengths in those. And that's it once it's been to the platers and been zinced. And then this is the replacement one. Here's another one I prepared earlier. That's the replacement one that I'm going to use. So it's the smaller head because I want it to match the others, and it's just got the shorter thread. So those are available through, you know, I just bought them online. So that I've got those there, but I've got leftovers, and you'll see here, like these are when we're doing the cobras. So I've had them all treated, and then I've painted over so they go in the top of the guard in the engine bay. So I'll be doing something similar like that. I'll probably use these ones, paint these in the green for the van, because I like them to be painted like original. So that's just one of those things. And I mean, this set of drawers now has got, you know, engine type bolts, washers, and then we go down a couple more, then we've got all the plastic, so all the different bits and pieces. So when I'm trying to put the car back together, I can find them and they've been treated and looked after. And the reason I'm showing you that right now is because I spoke about it, but I've also put the locks and the door handles and all back onto these. So what I'm looking to do before I start trying to flatten this all up and get this right, I need to make sure that everything's gonna work. My strikers, my locks. I've put the additional braces in the back of the door, so I need to get the right size length threaded bolts to go in here. So I'll get that, so when it comes apart for paint, that can all go away to the platers. Now the next stage of all of that is I really need to get the door rubbers organised, because I want to put the rubbers on before I go to paint, because I've seen it so many times and I've got caught in my early days. You paint the car, get the rubbers, then the door won't shut. So I need to find that problem before and either get a different rubber or modify the rubber or modify the body. So once the rubbers are on the door, you really want to get something that works as good as that with the rubber on the door. So you just got to keep thinking ahead all the time what's going to cause a problem when I go to put the car together. So I'll get that organised, I'll get these ones in, because we've modified all this to put new ones on. I just need to make sure everything's going to fit. Part of the whole deal about making sure it all fits is that you need to sort of go that next stage then and go, is the grill going to fit? Because you can't modify the grill, and if it don't fit in the hole, then you've got a whole lot of pain. When we did BOSSXC, for instance, we made the front a whole lot better than factory. We remade these in steel, and when we did that, we made the steel the same as the grill, because the grill's straight, but these have got a curve in them. So they're never going to fit with a perfect gap. And there's a couple of brackets down the bottom that I've got on here at the moment. You can pull that in and out a little bit, but when you pull it on here, it changes the back. So it becomes a compromise in how good things fit. But what I did find when I put this in, now, when this had the accident many years ago, they replaced the radiator support panel with an XB one and then welded some new brackets on for the grill. And unfortunately, they've put them too high, and you can see this grill going uphill. When I went to fit the grill and mount it everywhere it's meant to be mounted, it just got too much tension on here. It's like really tight, and I know it shouldn't be like that. So I've got some photos out of other XCs we've done, and this top of this bracket should be below the center of that bolt. So I reckon these are like 10 mil too high. So I'm going to have to take them off. So they'd been bronzed on, I think. So I'm going to have to take them off, move them down, and then I'll wait until I've got my bonnet back together, which I need to get onto and do, and put it on the hinges to make sure everything's going to line up, because I can't change it after I go to paint. So I need to make sure I've got everything right. What I'm happy about is the distance here. So the grill to the nose cone on both sides is very similar, and the same at the top, this gap up here. So that's all fitting good, but I've just got to make sure, because I've got a new old stock grill to use on the car, and if I tried to fit that now, I don't believe it would go on, because this is, over the years that this has been fitted, like probably 25 years, it's actually put a curve in the plastic. So I reckon if I put my new one on there, it wouldn't actually fit. So they're the challenges, but we just got to keep going and working away to get it all nice and square. And when I stand back and look at it, I want to get that feeling that it's going to look sharp and how I like my cars to look. Righto, just want to finesse the end of this door. So I've done this car a little bit back to front because I'm always chasing it for the video and for Summernats and things like that. So the quarter panel's been filled, and the shape of that, like along this edge, has got virtually no filler in it. And I know that's the factory shape, so that's what I'm working with. And the door has had the skin off it and then welded back on. So when I rub my hand up and down here, I can feel there's a bit of a high spot here. And when you bring the camera in from the end, you can actually see that high spot. Now when I put the skin on, I'm not looking to try and finesse any of it until I get it on, because I'm not sure where it's got to go. So I've pulled a few tools out that I'm going to use. So I've got a couple of dollies. This will be the main one. Slide hammer, and I made this little attachment up years ago. So it's a hook to go in behind the door, so I can pull it out without opening the door. And that's quite a heavy duty slide hammer, because it's the only one I've got. And I bought that, 30 years ago. I've got a couple of bits of the timber that I use, Tasmanian oak, and you'll see how I use that in a minute. A ruler, a couple of hammers, and I just prepped this one up. So it's just a bit of normal timber you use on your house. I call it soft pine. Someone said to me one day, all pine's soft, Howard, but I can mark this with my thumbnail, so you can see it's quite soft timber, and I've radiused all the edges so that I don't have any sharp edges, because I'm going to use that at times. If I want to flatten something out, I can put that on there and give it a hit with a hammer, and I'm not going to damage anything. I'm not going to put any hammer marks and things into the panel. A couple of hammers, the small face one, a larger face one, and then a normal hammer. So what I'm going to do now is work out where my high points are and my low points, so I'm looking pretty good. This door's been adjusted up, it's on the lock now, so it's held pretty solid. Don't have a rubber on it, because the rubber tends to hold things out. So you can see there, that's pretty much flush, but the end of the door is coming out slightly. Now, one of the issues I'm going to face with this build, these doors are a coupe door or a hardtop door. And one of the issues is, I don't have my long stick, I'll grab that. One of the issues is the fact that these doors have a big swoop in them that I think was put in them to work with the big quarters on a coupe. So when you put your ruler on there, you've got like 10 or 15 mil in here, and that shape was designed to go out into the quarter of the two-door, which goes quite out wide. So on the panel van, we don't have that width. So I need to think about what I'm going to do here, because the door's going to almost look like it's off the wrong car. But there's not much I can do about it, and I don't plan on trying to change the shape of the door. But it's worth noting in your mind that you're working with that, because what I want to do now is work my way up here to see what I've got. And I've got a couple of mil too high here, and then I'm back in flush. So that little high spot, I'm just going to, yeah, this needs to go in here. So that's taken the high off it, and now it's a bit full all the way down. So I need to think about that, because the trick is not to damage things as you go. So that dolly's probably not quite right, so I need to be able to just caress that out a bit. If you're using a hammer like this, make sure that the edges aren't sharp. So when I got this hammer, I radiused that edge, so you don't have that mark that gives you that little moon shape all the time. That's good to there, and now I'm still full here. So from here up, so now this point here, it's like the door comes up nice, and then it's really high here and low there. So if I hold that up in that corner and try and it's a whole lot better, but it's still now, this is better. You can see how soft that is. You can move that with my thumb. So the whole time you've got to be thinking about what you've got here, because when you go to fill that, what you don't want is, if this is high and you just knock the tip down, when you go to fill it, it'll want to look rounded, and you want the door to look flat. So you've got to try and make sure you're moving all the metal. And this is where you get caught, that door with that curve in it. The curve goes right along. They're a very difficult one to get straight. Now look how much is in there now. There's like 3 mil there. And the same here, because when you come back here, I noticed this morning when I walked out, because this is all bare metal, you have this really nice line that runs here and goes up and fades out to this point. And you've got to make sure you don't lose that shape when you're messing about. So when I get up to here, you've got to make sure you maintain that nice factory look. So I'll just give that one more tap. And we'll see if we can find a low bit to pull up with a slide hammer. That's close. Now, if it keeps springing, I can put, for instance, a little block behind there. Sometimes you've got to think about what's moving. You know, when you hit it, where's the metal going to go and what's it going to do? So I just got a little timber block that I can put in behind there, so that when I give this a tap here on this little high spot, I can see that move. Now if you bring the camera around the end, that's looking really close. And the trick that I use here is that if I hold the ruler on there, it's coming straight out. But if one's high or low, somewhere down here, the ruler will start going on an angle if one's low or high. The whole thing's not bad actually. If we look down there, it's flat here. This has got a nice curve, the door's a bit flat. So what I can do there, now you just got to be careful doing this if you do it too much. This is only like a mil. If I hook that in there like that, so that's pulling against that catch. So it's high there, depends where you, if I look up here I've got this nice, it's a little high spot there, and it goes low then high. Now you won't get this sort of variance if you haven't had the skin off it, but because we've had the skin off, it makes all the difference in the world. Now, if I pick my centre of my body line there that we've used in the centre of this one, a little bit of variance in that, but it's not too bad. That gives me this point that I need to make sure I maintain so that my body line is correct. It's actually not bad. I just need a little bit down there, so I might put that block in there if it'll fit. Whoa, could see that one go. Oh yeah, that's better. Now the same deal, as you're doing it, check how you're going here, and we're looking pretty good. So I don't know whether the video will show it, but there's nothing that's like, you know, 1/4 mil. As I come down, it's flush there. There's a little gap there, so I'd nearly reckon you can see it's a bit low. Now, the reason I'm doing this is what I don't like. You could nearly, you know, bog it up, block it out with the lock and the rubbers on it, but then when you open the door up, the end here is not consistent. I like to look at a car, and on the end of the door, it's got that nice 3 mil all the way down. You don't want 3 mil, 5 mil, 2 mil, all over the place. So get a little bit of extra effort to get the steel right. Makes a big difference when you do your filler work. So we want to come out of it there. It's a little bit time consuming, but if you spend, you know, on a half an hour now, you're going to save yourself a whole lot of time when you go to do your body work. It's quite firm there. Sometimes it goes easy. I've got the pencil. Oh, I've done my big pencil on the ground. Just there. Might go just with the hammer because it doesn't seem to want to move. Now, how's that look from back there? I reckon that wouldn't be looking bad. I can still see a couple of small bits. So this is full here. Now that's gone in, but it's moved that. So I need an extra pair of hands probably to be able to get what I need. Now, when I pull this, if I hold that there, I haven't got enough hands. Right, I'll have to wait till I've got someone else here I can hold the block against there. You can see what I'm doing. And then the trick is, if we look down the front, I'll adjust that guard a bit more and then I'll do a bit of pushing and pulling there. But that's very close. And ideally, when we look on here, we want to see that nice flush. You can see there now, when I slide that up and I get to that little high spot, we've got the extra, I mean, you're talking bugger all, but it's still trying to minimise that amount of filler. So that's made that a whole lot better. Go and do the front one. And then the ones are a bit harder down here. So you can see here where that is not matching. So once I get all this right, then I've got to basically reshape this here. And I would use something like this to knock that edge down without damaging the bottom. So I'll keep, we'll go and adjust that one, then we'll have a look at that. Righto, so I've put the bolt in on the A-pillar. So there's one that goes in this way that adjusts the height up and down. And then there's the two in the bottom. And what I'm looking to achieve here is I want this top edge here to be right through this line. And you can see there's a little bit of variation, but I feel like this back of this fender goes up. So I'm going to try and manipulate that a little bit, because when I put that on there, I've got a gap here. So I'm thinking that when this has been re-welded, it just goes up a couple of mil. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is I want this line through here to be right. So where that line that I was talking about earlier, it's been lost a little bit here. So it's got a nice radius there, then it flattens through there. And then this line comes along and goes up. So I need to push those around a bit there. Down the bottom, this one looks really good. So down here, my line there appears to be pretty much in line. The problem I have now is that if I mark my lines here, and I'm just using the shadow of the lights in the shed to do that, and I put my stick on there. All right, it's touching all of those, which is good, but I'm sort of full here and flat here. And you can really only pick that up with the shadows. You know, that's all I'm using, because otherwise you won't see it at all. So I need to address that, pull this out a bit, push that down a bit, and then I've got down here, that's not bad for a Falcon. Through there's the bottom of the door's pretty much flat, and then through this one, it's a little bit bellied, which they tend to be. Now it had badges and I welded the holes up. I did a bit of shrinking and stuff, so you know, I mightn't have quite got all of that out. But when I go across the panel like that, I've got a big difference between the two here. Now, as I said earlier, this has got the inner guard back in it now, so it's not going to move a lot. But I know this door looks a bit flat, so I'm going to pull the door up, but I'm going to be very careful that I don't mess with the panel too much. But you can see here I've got nearly 3 mil there, so when I go to pull this edge up, provided I get onto it properly, I should be able to move all of that metal up, so that when we do this with our body line and our filler, we end up nice and flat straight through there. So how do we go about that? I've put the 2 bolts in the bottom and tightened them up, and I've got my adjustment as good as I can. I'll probably wait till Blackman's back again and we'll do a bit more adjustment with the pair of us. I've got a pretty ugly gap width-wise, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over that because I'm trying to get this shape first. Right, now, how am I going to do that? So we might knock this one down, pull this one up, and we'll work our way down. So this is sitting on a clip there, a bolt here and a bolt on the inside, and it's got a full inner frame. So I know it's going to take a little bit to move it, or I think it will. Well, it's gone down. And then the other thing is I'm going to have to cut and shut some of this to get this gap nice. So this is really the start of it. I'm just tipping it up on the corner, so I'm just trying to get that corner down. That went. So now, when I put my little ruler on there, that's much better. So now it doesn't have a gap here. It's sitting down there. It looks a bit proud here, but I think it's because this one's low. So what I'm going to do now, I'll get off the chair. Try and dodge the camera. I'm going to come in front of you always because I have to come around this way. That's come up pretty good. I'm struggling to get my strip in there because of the width. Open that door up. just right on that point. So what I might do, if you watched me before, I've used, so these are some cold chisels that I had, and I've rounded off the point so they're not sharp, so they don't cut anything. And I'm going to try and get that up into there. Find my hammer. Amazing how difficult it is trying to dodge the camera and think about what you're trying to do at the same time. So it's just below that little point there. So this will all get cut back to make the gap right. That's better. Just needs if you come around from this side and look through here, you'll see how that now is not bad. This is not bad. Once we get the gap right, it'll look a lot better than it does at the moment. And then because we've pulled that, this doesn't look that good either, but this will be really soft. This will go down really easily. It's meant to. Alright, so that's not bad. Just, I'm going to have to hold the back of that with a slide hammer and tap that corner down, but that now is heaps better. And I've just got, it's good there and it's a little bit fat down through here. So before I hit that, I'll get my padding under here, I'll just check what I've got here, because I don't want to pull it and then find I'm wrecking the door. So through here it's really flat. So I don't want to play with that too much, or if I do, I need a big flat block. Right? But up here, that area there, it goes in. So I just got to be careful. I might just pull this a little bit. It's going to take a bit of moving, but I don't know whether it will move. We'll find out. So that's got that double panel on the back. It's difficult to get a straight pull because it goes in on an angle like that. Yeah, it went 1/2 mil. And 1/2 mil when you're doing this stuff makes a big difference. So we'll go over a nice big flat area. That's pretty good. There's no real, I don't know how we're looking along because I stick my head in the way of the camera all the time, but it's not bad. It's a little bit high there and I can almost feel a little rise in it. Pretty good. Right, I'll try and just caress this down a little. Nice straight panel. This is just a little full, just there. It's almost springing, like it's held by when it's been welded back in, it's just holding a bit of the metal up. So you get quite a lot of tension in the panel. That actually helped that a lot. Okay. Now, I'm going to try and do this in increments, so I don't want to try and pull it all the way out into one spot. So I'm just going to go up and down. I don't want to be doing too much more there, but it's pretty good. So I almost feel like that wants to go in on the adjustment a little bit. Might have just pulled out when I was pulling it earlier. You sort of got to have your wits about you when you're doing these things to... Yeah, that's better. Now it's like 1/2 mil instead of 1 mil. I find it interesting when you're talking about panel work and it's 1/2 mil, but that's what we do. Looks all right. Really nice there, and it's just fattening up a little bit here, so a bit more down through there. And the frustrating part about doing all this is that once you get done and you've got everything nice but the gaps are wrong, you start welding things and it'll all move again. But I do like to get it as close as I can before I get to that point. Now this is not quite right here, so I need to I'm going to try and sit that on this top edge, try and pull that body line down a bit. I'm struggling though. Oh, I've seen that move. That suits better. Keep the old fella fit, and now all this up and down, up and down. Righto, I think you get the idea of what I'm up to. Come back from this way, It looks, I don't know what it looks like that way, Louise, but it looks pretty good this way. Remembering we're in all steel at the moment, so we've got no product. This stuff's really thin. So you can see now it's really nice and it just has a little bit of fatness. But if this guard is adjusted in 1/2 mil down the bottom, that'll all go away, but it's even, and that's what I was looking for. So, oh, I'm puffing now. So that pretty much, got to do a lot of that now. So I've got to do this, finish this door, that door, tailgates, and it's the same sort of thing that's going to go on. So this will be the last of this part of it until we get to the bit more finessing, welding gaps and those sorts of things. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm struggling to get enough footage on an ongoing basis with the van because I'm not on it all the time and I go away. So we're off to the Van Nats at Mildura, and I'm going to have a lot of good stuff to bring you from there because they've got boat racing, they've got speedway, there's some drag racing on, and then the following I'm catching up with Rob and Kath Fazella there, and we'll go down to Yarrawonga and do the blown boats, and then when I get back I've only got a few days and we're off to MotorX. So I hope you're enjoying this part of what we do, and I'll do my best to continue to do more work and bring you what we do. But for now, that's about it. Don't forget to subscribe. If you've got questions, I will answer them. Click the like button, and we'll see you next time around.